See them a fight Buju Banton long time. See them a fight Rasta man long time. See them a fight ghetto youths long time.
Stand up, defend your rights.
Good afternoon. Free the land.
Free the land.
Let me explain that. I don't like to say anything that everybody don't understand. Right? That's a slogan we use. That's a cry. That's a liberation cry. Because we know that to free the people, we must free the land. We must run all the evil spirits off the land. You know, even though sometimes we're in places where the climate are warm, the atmosphere, the environment is cold. In fact, it's cold-blooded because it's controlled by cold-blooded people who run cold-blooded governments. And so in order to be free, the people must free the land from those people. So that's a slogan we can share as African people all over the world, because everywhere where we are, there's somebody who is in control of our land, either directly or indirectly, in order to suck the blood out of the people and to exploit the people. So that's why we say, free the land.
Free the land.
Now, let me say that this is I'm not happy to be here in terms of why we're here, because, of course, this is another tragedy. This is a situation where the system, the United States government, has victimized a brother who is dear to us, who we love, who has raised his voice to represent the spirit of the people. The culture of the people is the spirit of the revolution. And so he is the spirit of the people, and he brings that spirit to our people. But at the same time, we have seen him become the victim of the same thing that so many of our brothers and sisters have come victim to, the so-called war on drugs, which, like Nkechi said, is really a war on us. I just want to pause for just a minute to introduce a couple of other people who weren't introduced yet. I want to introduce Brother Kalanji Olusegun. Okay, Kalanji, and he is the elected vice president of what we call the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa. And then also we have Brother Senghor Jawara. Where is Brother Senghor at? Senghor. He is the one of the presidents or leaders of the UNIA-ACL. That's something that we share between here and Jamaica. We share Marcus Garvey. Don't we share Marcus Garvey? Right. Yes, sir. We share Marcus Garvey. And Marcus Garvey, of course, was the creator of the UNIA. And it's appropriate that he should be here. It's appropriate that we all should be here at this moment, because so many times we struggle in isolation. We take our own personal struggles that we confront as a people in Jamaica, or we confront as a people in the communities in the United States, and we don't understand that they're the same struggle, So one of the things that we have to do with Buju's case, not only do we have to make sure that everyone understands the injustice of this case, the ridiculousness of this case, the outright embarrassment and lying that's going on in this case. But at the same time, we have to show people that it's a shared calamity. It's a shared kind of tragedy which goes on between us. And so we want everybody, regardless of where they are, to stand up for this case, so we can stand up for all the people that are victimized by the same thing that Buju is victimized of. What they have done this time is, I think they have made a mistake. They have made the mistake of tapping someone who does have a voice, of someone who can call people together. So often they destroy so many people without voices, so many people who are invisible to us, so many people who can't speak up for themselves and who can't demonstrate the kinds of ways that their cases have been outrageous. But at this time, what they've done is they have touched a brother who has touched so many other folks. They have touched a brother whose voice has gone to so many other places, that has warmed so many other hearts. So many other people know him and know what kind of person he is and know what kind of person he is not. So what they have done is put themselves on Front Street, so to speak. And what we have to do as a committee is keep them on Front Street, so we can make them and force them to give justice to Buju Banton. The case which we are here to deal with, the Buju Banton case, is a case which typifies the excesses of the United States government. They call this a war on drugs, a war on drugs. It's a phony war. Well, the war is not phony, because they definitely go to war. They definitely destroy people. They definitely kill people. They definitely break up families and create all kinds of havoc. But so often, they feel that they can name something whatever they want to name it. And so although it's called the war on drugs, it's really not a war on drugs, it's a war on us. If the United States wanted to stop drugs from coming to America, they would have stopped drugs from coming to America a long time ago. Okay. If the United States wanted to stop people from bringing drugs to America, they would have stopped people from bringing drugs to America a long time ago. They can go over to Libya and in the middle of Libya, kill the man who led that country for so many years. If they can drop bombs in various different parts of the world, if they can find if they can find Osama bin Laden in some remote part of the world, they can find drugs coming across the United States border at times. But they're not concerned about stopping drugs. Drugs is a shadow economy. At the same time that they are dropping the industrial production, dropping the production of manufacturing, shipping it to other places so that super rich manufacturing owners and corporations can get richer, and at the same time the workers are getting poor. They have created a situation where they can't sell their cars in many instances because the workers that they are laying off and firing were the principal ones who were buying the cars in the first place, right? So they have found themselves putting roebucks in factories, and the roebucks can't buy cars, right? And so what they turn around, instead of using it to try to recreate industry and to share some of the wealth, what they do is create a shadow economy so that some people can come in and they can sell drugs and do things like that and still buy the produce of the capitalist monsters. And at the same time, they create a so-called force to stop the drugs. The force to stop the drugs is supposed to be stopping drugs, but really they're hoping that drugs continue, because if it wasn't for no drugs, they wouldn't have no jobs, right? And so the police, they have the state police and the county police and the federal police and the secret police who watch the secret police, right? They have all these police, and they have judges, and they have lawyers, and they have probation officers, and they have prisons, and they have people locking up people in prison. And then they have the nerve to tell us that crime don't pay, right? If crime stopped tomorrow, if drugs stopped tomorrow, all of these people, most of them would be out of a job. And the United States would be in a horrible situation where it could not survive another day or two. And so what they do is they put people like us in the target, and they create us as the boogeymen, as the enemies, and they corrupt the minds of our children. And then what they have done in this situation, they have taken a person who was pure, a person who had no record at all in terms of dealing with drugs, and they've tapped him, because they also get stray dogs and they put them out there to prey on us. Like in this case, they had this fella by the name of Alex Johnson. Now listen to this. He was a paid informant. And guess how much money he had made over the years? $3.5 million. $3.5 million. And so he not only goes at the people they sent him at, he goes and finds people that he can victimize. So he finds Buju on a plane coming back from Madrid. And he sits on the plane, and here's a man who doesn't even have a passport, and he's traveling between Madrid and the United States, right? And so and you know he wouldn't be an informant if he hadn't already been the scum of the earth, if he wasn't out there trying to contaminate and corrupt people's lives to start off with, if he hadn't gotten in trouble himself already. And so he gets what he calls, what he thinks is big prey, which is Buju. And he leads them, he tanks him, tries to tank him up, giving him stuff to drink and more stuff to drink, talking to him about drugs. And Buju is ignoring the conversations, walking away from the conversation. He tricks him into coming to a place to see boats. And at the place where he tricks him to come to see boats, they've set up a video camera and they bring out drugs. Buju withdraws from the drugs. And so they continue to set up a drug sale which has nothing to do with Buju at another time in another place. And when they try to say that Buju is involved, of some kind of conspiracy. So what it is, it's a fabricated case based upon a stray dog that they had out there trying to prey and sick upon people, right? But this is the way they do it. This is the character of the government. These are the people that you call the United States government, right? And then we go around asking about the United States government, and we wonder about why certain people can run for the presidency who don't tell the truth, right? Well, the government don't tell the truth, really, you know. It's a shaky government. It's a shaky government. It's not a government that's gone wrong. It's not that the United States has just gone wrong. The United States has never been right, okay? You can't tell me what point in history you really want to go back to, right? So let me say this, is what we have to do from this point on is this, to make it clear. We have to take this case and take it to the people in the community. We have to put it on the internet. We have to talk about it. We have to make sure that everybody is conscious of it. We can't let the Supreme Court be comfortable. We have to let them know that it's very important that they hear this case, because this case is going to cause the mountain to rock. This case is going to cause the mountain to rock. We're not going to tolerate it the same way that we've done in many other cases in the past. We've had some successes, like with Angela Davis and Huey P. Newton and various different other people throughout the history of our struggle. And we have to have success with this case here. This is an important case. This requires people with clear minds, with clear definitions, with clear analysis. We have to have clear analysis because our people are confused. Our people know drugs are bad. So as soon as you say that someone had drugs, it confuses our people. They assume right from the beginning that this is a bad person. So we have to take their labels and straighten their labels out. We got to show the people that the system is the one that is perpetuating the drug traffic, just like I described it at the beginning of my presentation. It is the system that is causing these drugs to be perpetuated. It's not Buju. Buju is a victim of the system and a victim of the perpetuation of the drug traffic. And we must use him in order to demonstrate that. So let's do so. Let's unite together and let's do what we have to do. Right now in court, we are in the Supreme Court. We have just filed a brief in the Supreme Court asking them to review the Buju Banton case. We have also done some work on the local level. In other words, in Florida. When I say the local level, I'm talking about where the district court is, where he was convicted in Tampa, Florida. We have filed a motion for a new trial. We found out that there was misconduct there. A juror was actually researching the case on her own at the time that the trial was going on. That's a violation of the court rules. So we're going to use that in order to expose the way that she probably contaminated the rest of the jurors. We know that at one point the juror was voting 10-2 not guilty. And all of a sudden they turned around and started voting guilty. And so we think that the jurors' so-called independent research had something to do with what was the results. We know that this is a man who was tried once before for the same case. And at that time he got found, at that time there was 7-5 for not guilty. And so they retried him and they added charges. They added charges, which probably is an abuse of his rights. They added charges without an opportunity when they could have added those charges before. So they were being vindictive. They said, since you bothered to fight your case and were successful in avoiding conviction, we're going to add more charges on you and make it rougher on you and try to destroy you. But this is the time that we got to shut the door on them. We got to tell them that that's not going to work, and we got to tell them that we're going to work, and we're going to work for the vindication of Buju Banton. We can say that the cases in the trial court or in the lower court where we have raised the motion for a new trial, those cases will take a little time to develop because we have to have a hearing about the juror and what the juror did. So even though we're going to file the case in the Supreme Court now, there won't be an immediate answer by the Supreme Court because we're going to have to let some of that misconduct of the juror and some of the other things that's happening below catch up to the case on this level. We have to go through it there before we can bring it here. So one thing that you can keep in mind is that we want you to write letters. We want you to write letters to the United States Supreme Court telling them that this case should be heard because the United States Supreme Court will only hear the cases that they think that they have to hear. that they need to hear, because the people are not going to let them rest unless they do hear. So thank you very much, and thanks everybody for coming. Thank this beautiful panel for being up here in support of Buju Banton. But what we got to do is a victory march. We don't accept defeat. We got to do the victory march. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Lumumba, for that clear outline of where we are. I now invite Imhotep to come up and give us some more of the details of the case.
Thank you very, very much. My name is Imhotep Al-Kibulin, and I, along with Attorney Lumumba, will be representing Buju Banton in the District Court in Florida and also before the United States Supreme Court. I presently reside in Jackson, Mississippi, deep in the belly of the beast. I must let you know that Attorney Chokwe Lumumba is on the city council there in Jackson, Mississippi. And he's also running for mayor of the city of Jackson, Mississippi. The election is in May of next year, May 2013, and we need your support. I'm sure you can imagine what it would be for the city, the residents there of the city, if Mr. Lumumba is the next mayor, and we are planning on Mr. Lumumba being the next mayor. And when he's the next mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, y'all come on down and make it a much better city to live in. He's, I think, leading in the polls, and he's expected to be, again, the next mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. Mr. Lumumba was retained by Buju Banton to be his lawyer. Mr. Lumumba asked me to be his co-counsel, and I didn't, admittedly, had never heard of Buju Banton before. I'm a little older than Buju. I have never heard of his music. I just knew of the allegations of being convicted of drug trafficking. Okay, tell me something new, okay? I had the pleasure of meeting Buju. They're unfortunately incarcerated in Miami, Florida. And after meeting Buju, I knew he was innocent. Okay? I then read the government's brief in support of his conviction. I also read the previous lawyer's brief asking the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta for a new trial. And what's striking about this government plot, and it really was under the law, entrapment, entrapping Buju to, well, a government's intent to trap Buju in procuring drugs, apparently to distribute. And I say their attempt to entrap Buju, I say that because he really was, the facts were, he really didn't procure. He had no intent. Under the law of entrapment, you have to be predisposed to want to commit a crime, okay? And this particular crime is drug possession. Buju is presently 39 years old. At the time of trial, I believe approximately 37 years old, with no criminal history whatsoever. Okay? So now, all of a sudden, he's is going to be predisposed to procure drugs. There's no history of it. His, the confidential informant, as Mr. Lumumba told you, is Alexander Johnson, a Colombian, who had been convicted of drug trafficking. and had made, Mr. Lumumba told you, through the government. Once he had been convicted, then he becomes what's known as a snitch, okay? He's paid in cash money, approximately $3.5 million cash, okay? That's not reported to the Internal Revenue Service, okay? So that's his incentive, okay? I'm sure we could all use some cash that is not reported. You don't have to report it. What could you do with it? I can tell you what I could do with it. That's his incentive, okay? And at the time of trial, he's broke out of money, had filed for bankruptcy. He had owed money on his credit cards. He's essentially broke, and he needs money, more money. So he has to entrap someone, and he gets a cut. If it's, a big money drug deal, he gets a percentage, I don't know, 20, 25% of the drug money. And that's another big question. Is Mr. Lumumba tells you he meets Buju. Buju is traveling first class after one of his concerts in Barcelona, Spain. Alexander Johnson is broke, and he's sitting in first class next to Buju. Buju sits down there. His seatmate is Alexander Johnson. And so that's a big question. We were not the trial attorneys. I wish we were. I wish Mr. Lumumba had the chance to be in trial and to cross-examine Mr. Johnson, and you could see what an outstanding trial attorney he is, among other things. But one of the tactics that's used by this confidential informant snitch is to get Buju drunk, okay? And they're on the plane there ordering champagne, wine, scotch, more of it. Yeah, bring it on. But, and he's after drinking so much that I submit to you. That alleviates the predisposition. Okay, you're drunk. Okay, there is no predisposition thereafter. Okay, to procure any drugs. But this Alexander Johnson is the one that brings up drugs first, not Buju, who has no history, but it's Alexander Johnson. They land in America, and this is a big question also. This government using this Johnson guy, Johnson has he's not an American citizen, okay, and yet he's living here in this country, been convicted of drug trafficking, and he's still in this country, okay, not an American citizen. They get off the plane. Buju is perhaps, as too many of us are too friendly with the wrong people. Okay, all right, and you got to watch who your friends are. All right, and this went on. Alexander Johnson is after Buju. Okay, that's the big fish, and and Johnson is in need of some more money. They are after Buju for 6 months. Okay, he's calling Buju. They exchange numbers or whatever. Buju, I got a new friend. Alexander says, I can help you. I know some folks in LA that can help you with your music career, and I can, do this and that for you. And for 6 months, he's asking Buju, calling Buju, trying to get Buju to make it out and visit Johnson in Sarasota, Florida. Okay, and he says, yeah, we can, my friend has a boat, and we can go, have some fun and go on this boat ride, and come on, the jargon there was come to the West Coast. Buju lives near Fort Lauderdale on the west coast of Florida. Come on down and, for 6 months. Buju, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, friend, my new friend. But he really doesn't. Johnson calls so many times. Sometimes Buju doesn't even answer the phone. Okay, but finally, Johnson puts the guilt trip on him. Johnson comes not only to Fort Lauderdale. I think he may have gone there a couple of times, and also I believe he went to a spot close to Fort Lauderdale, and Buju didn't meet him there, and so he lays this guilt trip on it. Yeah, I came to see you, and you didn't even come see me. Come on, to the West Coast and visit me. Eventually, Buju again, being friendly, and Johnson tells him, yeah, we're going on a boat ride here. All right, let's go on the boat ride. Okay, they get to, Johnson says, go to Naples. Meet me in Naples, Florida. And then when Buju gets to Naples, you'll come a little further. I'm up in Sarasota. Come, drive a little further. Okay, and they finally end up in Sarasota, Florida. And again, Buju thinking he's going on the boat trip. He takes a couple of friends with him, and instead of going on a boat ride there in Sarasota, Johnson takes him to the drug warehouse. Okay, and that's where the drugs are stored, and it's videotaped, and there's Spanish-speaking officers there from the Sarasota Police Department. And it's all on tape, and it's videotape and recorded tape, okay? And the government calls it part of their trip. Again, this is a trick, okay? Tells him he's going on the boat ride and has him go see the drugs. The government calls it a surprise flash. That's their term. The government admitted it at trial, yeah. It's called a surprise flash, where we show him the drugs, and it's in a car. They open up the trunk, and there's all this drugs there. And as Mr. Lumumba told you, well, Buju, there, sees that and backs up. Whoa, all this drugs. I thought we were going on. Where's the boat? Okay, yeah, and all this drugs there, and Buju tries to leave. And in fact, I think he did leave the warehouse, and Johnson calls him back in. Yeah, get him in there, and show it to him. So again, trying to make a drug deal, drug sale, and then, even then, no drug deal is made on that particular date. Then a couple of days later, unfortunately, one of Buju's drivers makes a deal with Johnson for a couple of days later, and Buju wasn't even there. Buju is back at home there near Fort Lauderdale. He's not even there, and his driver, his name is Thomas, makes a deal with Johnson, and Thomas is the middleman. And he gets a couple of guys from Atlanta, Georgia, to make the actual drug purchase. And again, Buju's at home. He's not in Sarasota, Florida. He doesn't know anything about a drug transaction. He doesn't know anything about the two guys, drug purchasers from Atlanta. He knows nothing. And yet, he's the big fish, and so he's arrested a couple of days later, again, at home on the east coast of Florida. So that's the injustice here. And I don't know how long Buju's been in America when this happened, but I cynically say, welcome to America, okay? This is the type of government we have here that would want to prosecute an innocent man, and that's what we have now, another innocent African in prison. And it is evident by this international support that Buju has to exonerate him and to free him. And that's why I want to thank each and every one of you for being here and getting the word out. And we must get the word out across the street here at the United States Supreme Court to free Buju Banton, a innocent man now languishing in prison based upon the trickery, okay, and the and to use a no-good snitch like Alexander Johnson to put an innocent man in, to prosecute him, convict him, and sentence him to prison. Justice must prevail, and he must be freed, and with your help and support, he will be. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Imhotep. You know, one of the things that I find so problematic is that when you listen to Buju Banton's lyrics, he fully understands the complexity of the forces that are lined up against black people. And this is why it's so ironic that they have chosen him as a victim, because Buju is not an idiot. Buju understands. One of the courses I teach at the University of the West Indies is reggae poetry, where we analyze the lyrics of reggae songwriters as poetry. We do Jimmy Cliff, we do Burning Spear, we do Peter Tosh, we do Bob Marley, we do Steel Pulse, we do Tanya Stevens, and we do Buju Banton. And the course is one of the most powerful ones on the university campus because the students get a chance to understand the music that they are enjoying as dancehall, you know, children of the dancehall, but they now start to understand what produced them. I remember there was a young man, he's in law school now, and he said that he discovered Peter Tosh in the course. Now, this is a tragedy, that a lot of the young people don't know the older generation of songwriters. And he said, Miss, the man, you're bad. And he suddenly realized that Sizzler, Caperton, all of them now have nothing over Peter Tosh. And this is what I think is so important for us to understand. We have to understand the power of reggae music and why Jamaicans are so angry that Buju Banton has been incarcerated, because we feel that a major voice has been silenced, and we need Buju Banton out so that he can continue to do the powerful work that he is in creation to do. So, Brother Ola, it's your turn up. Brother Ola, a man who has been working hard with other cases, chairman of the NAACP Prison Committee in Trenton, New Jersey. More nice, Brother Ola, man.
Ma'at Hotep.
Hotep.
Justice and peace. I want to acknowledge a group of young men and women who are here today, and this is a class from the Roosevelt High School. Would you all stand up? Okay, now y'all see me, and I happen to know your teacher. So if she have a problem, you have a problem. That's my daughter, now Kenji Cunningham. All right. Stand now, Kenji, stand. Yes. The reason why I felt it was important to get involved with Buju's situation is because I saw how the tactics that they used against him are used against African people in America on a day-to-day basis. I mean literally, hundreds of thousands of African people fall subject to these tactics. What did they do? They focused on him. They didn't just wait for somebody to come along. They decided that they were going to focus on him. This is what they do in our communities. Earlier, you heard Chuckway say that 70% of the drugs used in this community, used in America, are used in a community where the people don't look nothing like us. But only 30% of them are in prison for drugs, and 70% is us. This is because we have been focused on. And there's certain tactics that they use that you're going to be somewhat familiar with. One of the things they will do is they will overcharge a person once they get them. They give them about 7 or 8 charges. Now, typically, an individual that they swoop off a corner is not going to have money to make bail, is not going to have money to get their own attorney, so they're going to have to deal with a public defender. Okay, for those who may not know, a public defender is somebody the government gives you to represent you. And the first thing the public defender is going to do is say, if you will accept a guilty plea on counts 1 and 2, we'll drop 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and only give you 5 years. And when you don't have an attorney that you can count on, that you can trust, you know that if you go to trial with this government attorney, then you're going to get jammed up. Not only are you going to get jammed up, the vindictiveness that Brother Lumumba spoke about, that they did with Buju, how the first trial, he got a hung jury. In between the first and the second trial, they did what they call a super indictment and came up with extra charges that he never even faced in the first trial. This was to make it clear that we're not going to have y'all fighting us, and we don't want you to think you're going to get away, even if we have to come out our bag of tricks and add a couple more charges, which is what they did. And the typical brother throughout the United States, they know if you don't think you got a good lawyer, if you don't think you got a chance to win that fight, and if they want to, in theory, they could give you 35 years, you can expect to get it if you go to trial and lose. So typically what they do, they take the deal. 97% of the cases throughout the United States are settled by a plea bargain. Now, if the United States had to go to court for 50% of the cases that come before them, the government would break down. They couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford it. So they use a scare tactic to force people to accept a plea bargain even when they think they're innocent. They're so good at it that you have had people admit to being a part of a murder that they had nothing to do with. But they told them, if you did not take the plea bargain, we're going to put you on trial for your life. We're going to give you the death penalty. And people think, oh, no, I'm not going to no murder trial with no public defender. They decide, I'm going to take the deal. Well, we'll give you 10. I'm going to take the deal. Thank God for Buju Banton. Thank God for Buju Banton. Here comes a man with a voice. Here comes a man with some friends and some money. And he decides, I don't care. They came to him and they said, look, we'll give you 3 years. His response was, why should I take 3 years? I'm an innocent man. Well, we could give you blah, blah, blah. I don't care what you could give me. I'm an innocent man. I'm not going to accept a plea bargain. I'm not going to do it. And this is why they're angry. This is why they were vindictive. This is why they came with the super indictment and added charges. Because they want to make an example out of him to show him, you don't get uppity with us. We don't care who you are. We don't care what kind of money you got. We'll take you down. We're the government. We can't let them do that. They want to silence his voice because they know that those hundreds of thousands of African men and women that they have jammed up, that got a little squeaky voice and dust in their pocket, no money, that they will be encouraged by this. They will understand that I don't have to take the deal. I can fight. We want to see Buju be vindicated. We want to use his voice to amplify the voice of the little man who right now doesn't feel he has any choice but to go along with the deal. So this is why this case is important enough to bring me all the way from Trenton, New Jersey to Washington, D.C. about a brother that they got locked up in FCI Miami. Well, he's in Pinellas County now in southern Florida. Because I know that this is not just a case about a cultural icon. This is not just a case about somebody who has made an impact on the world with his music. This is a case about tactics that have been used recklessly against our people in a conspiracy of mass incarceration. $75 billion is the value that this government puts into the penal system. $75 billion in the criminal justice system. That's a lot of money. You know, they talk about the new Jim Crow. And under Jim Crow, we had to be out in the field cutting cane, picking cotton, cutting tobacco. Well, they don't need us to cut cane. They don't need us to cut tobacco or pick cotton. Now, we are the cotton. Now, we are the tobacco. Now, we are the cane. Okay? And this is how it is. We do not have to accept this. And what we can do is get behind this voice. Let this voice amplify the voices of the hundreds of thousands. There are 2.5 million people in prison in the United States. United States right now incarcerates a higher percentage of its population than South Africa did at the height of apartheid. This is going on right now. And we are the primary victims. Thank God for Buju. Thank God for the Buju Defense Support Committee. And for us having this platform to stand on and to expose these tactics that this criminal justice system is using in its conspiracy to mass incarcerate our people. I say we want a victory, we want vindication of Buju Banton, and we want to be able to put our hand on this criminal justice system to say we want quality defense attorneys for these people who are facing these charges. We don't want them to have to deal with a public defender who got 35 or 40 cases and you ain't seen him until 2 or 3 days before you get ready to go in front of the judge. He not even sure if he got your case or David Johnson's case. And I know of situations where they went in there and they had the wrong file. Okay, so this thing must stop. Let us use this as a point of departure to say it's not just what you did to Buju. Even when he get out, we're not done. When he gets out, we're not done. When he's freed, we're not done. Because we know this is something that you are continuing to do to everybody you think you can get away with it, and it's not acceptable. All right. Maad Hotep, Habari Ghani, if there are any out there, roo to the brothers.
Yes, Brother Ola, we hear you loud and clear. Gramps, your time. Morgan Heritage.
Greetings. Greet you in that precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christus, you know. Who reveal unto I and I in that character of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Selassie the First, Jah, Thunderable God. Well, I and I am a musician, you know. I give thanks because we've been in this fight for 3 years now. And my whole time being there with Buju and my brethren, Stephen Ragamuffin Marley, you know, fighting and us being a brother for him. Cause if you don't know Buju not a brother. I have sister, but he has no brothers. And he has found one in me, Gramps, and one in Stephen Marley. And this is why we are here today. My brother Stephen Marley, you won't hear from him, but his presence says 1,000 words. Yeah. But I will talk, because I'm born in this country, but I chat my language. Now, make you really see what really go on. Mr. Lumumba, I tip my hat off to you because in 3 years is the clearest I have heard this case. No disrespect to the other law, because I love America. I'm born here, but I know myself. To the next lawyer, the assistant lawyer, you make me proud to be an African man, because I see that there are educated Africans in this country. Men like you need to be exalted, and they need to have you on TV. I know they say Al Sharpton everywhere. But these two brothers move my spirit to them, man, and open our eyes. Back to my brethren, Buju. Now, like the lawyers say, you know, there's many young kids in this country locked away, just like Buju. But the difference with Buju, I remember when he said to me, what do you think we should I do? And they offered him 3 years. And I'm saying, nah, bro. He said he's going to fight. And such as many young African American youths in this country, they don't have the money to fight. So they do just like what the lawyer said. He said, I'll take the 10 years, man. I'll maybe get out in 6, you know what I'm saying? One time I get locked up for a license in a Brooklyn, New York. The man them locked me up because my license suspended. I don't know if I drive. But these rules and regulations of this country, may I tell you, get insurance to drive you on a car. If you crash it, you pay for your car. But it's a system that is in place. If you bleed way. And when I locked me up, the day when they locked me up and take my license because my headlight was out. And when I go in there, my father come in and start cry. I said, boy, you know, the heart of the beast. But one thing at 300 pounds me weigh, I can't defend myself. So I did ready for the war. And I in there now and I sit down and I then put me in a cage with enough man now waiting for their fate to be decided. Now remember, I'm only in there for a suspended license. So all of a sudden I see some man in there smoke ganja. And I say, what is this now? I just take my side on the next side of the cell. And me hear them start to talk. And just listening to some of these guys were like 18, 19. Everybody black. Some of them I say, what are you doing here? So hear them now, yeah, I'm in here, man, you know. One of them, I was just shocked. He said, I'm in here for a little burning, you know what I'm saying? They caught me with a 357, you know what it is? I'm gonna say, wow. He said, I may get 8, you know what I'm saying? They have no bodies on it. And this is an 18-year-old kid. And him just look at 8 years of him life like I know nothing. Now when the man him start smell ganja, now me I say the first person them I go look upon if them smell ganja, oh. See me here. And me first time I go look upon, because them I say dreadlock Jamaican ganja. So I just tell him, say, my youth, go over there, so don't make me mash up in a car. If them come in here and me first, them I come for. And here's a system that is in place that you are judged. Stereotypical. Stephen Marley can attest to when we travel enough time. Fortunately, I have an American passport because I'm born here, but I chat my language, like I said. So the first them look at me, them either think me is Nigerian, or me somebody will come over as a criminal. Because them judge me by my cover. And such they did as with Buju. One of the things when we went to court, we were character witnesses for Mr. Mark Myrie to say that the character is. And as the lawyer said, this man, Buju has never been convicted of a crime, never, not a known drug dealer. And that's why in the last trial we saw that he wasn't trapped. Now like the lawyer said, let's listen to these facts, people, because we're not going to be here tomorrow, but we must tell the truth and remember what the two lawyers them say today. This man filed for bankruptcy and still let him have a first class seat, sit down next to Buju Banton from Spain. You know how much for a first class we go to New York? So how him can be filing for bankruptcy? Something or something. Was he placed there? We don't know. We hope and pray and give Brother Lumumba and his team the power to prove that in the American judicial system. But I know my friend Buju, me never see him sell drugs yet. Me never see him take drugs yet. And just like Kunta Kinte, you know, Kunta Kinte get beaten for him forget his identity. Some may know, the high school students that are here, know your history. Know your history. Don't forget who you are, man. We are all Africans. If you're black, you are African.
That's right.
If you are Chinese, you come from China. If you are Indian, India. But when you're black, you are what? African. Be proud of that. But we are at war. It's not a gun war, it's a cultural war for us to forget our identity and who we are. And for me to take on different characters of the thug. So like me always say, and anytime I book up Jay-Z, I tell him, say they will spend 10 billion to destroy a nation. So know what come out of your mouth, my brother. Know the image that you are displaying. Don't help us to forget ourselves. And the story of Kunta Kinte, he was beaten to forget his identity. Him say his name was Kunta. And the master said, where you say? Your name Toby. And it's the same thing Buju say. Buju say to me when I said, boy, it sounds like a good deal. Why fight them? And I tell you, so the fire in this man's spirit, one may not know him personally, but a true warrior, may I tell you. And he decided to fight them. Give thanks for the soccer player from Chelsea and even Stephen Marley that put up even the roof over his head because we stand up together. And this is what we have to do to, like the elder said, when Buju is free and vindicted, and they must sing again on stage, we have to remember those that are still in there. But Buju is a warrior that decided not to lay down. Just like when Kunta Kinte get beaten just to change his name. And Buju has been known even since he was 15, 16 years old and find the faith of Rastafari such as Snoop Dogg. If he did say him a Christian, they would have said more things. But him say Rastafari. And him say a Rastafari call him. So enough respect to Snoop Lion for endorse the divinity of Emperor Haile Selassie I. So, my brothers and sisters, Africans, be strong. Don't forget where we come from. And I beg of you to spread this word about our brother Buju. He decided not to lay down, and that's why he's in prison. Because if he did accept that deal, me and Buju would be eating ackee and saltfish now. But him say, I don't want the world to believe that I'm a drug dealer. That's what him said to me. And he decided to fight. Over $1 million in lawyer fees. $1 million. Alexander Johnson was paid $3.2 million. I remember everything. If there's any time for sell drugs, I out of everything for learn out of that case. I know more already if you sell drugs. Because the system is so set up in place, it's what you can get away with. And accordingly to what the system and what happened, Buju was in his bed when this drug deal was going down. The drug deal that was made was a man named Icon Tyke, who come from Atlanta, Georgia. People, these are the facts. Some of you may not be there when we go to federal court. Some of you may not be there when we go to Tampa for the hearing. But me have to tell no I go on. Because me did it. Translation, I was there. Alec Johnson did broke, and he got hired. People are not foolish. Well, I would know for wipe with bottom. Nobody in here is babies. Make us stand up and fight for Bridget Buju and be aware of how you walk in this society. Please, for these few words, say free Buju, you know?
Just want to let you know that we have petitions here that we're asking everybody to sign. Petition to the Supreme Court, so we want to make sure that as many of us who are here today, we start the ball rolling. I tell you, Grams, those words were powerful. You know, I told Buju a few days ago, and I hope none of the Rasses here will think that this is sacrilegious, but I told him that when he returns to Jamaica, we're going to have a motorcade from the airport that will be bigger than Selassie's visit to Jamaica. You know, and to tell you, I mean, Selassie's visit was a hype, you know, we know this as one of the high moments in Jamaican history where all of the Rasses came out to greet His Imperial Majesty. But it's going to be bigger when Buju comes home. We're going to have the last speaker now, Salima Darfo, who is the chairman of the National Black United Front in Washington, D.C.
One aim. I can't hear y'all. One aim.
One aim.
One aim.
One aim.
One God.
One God.
One destiny.
One destiny.
One aim.
One aim.
One God.
One God.
One destiny.
One destiny.
of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. That's what Brother Malcolm X said. And when I was thinking about that, I thought about all the cultural artists throughout history that have gone through a struggle. We had Paul Robeson, who's gone through a struggle. We had Peter Tosh that's gone through a struggle. At one time, Bob Marley's music couldn't get played in Zimbabwe because they thought it was going to lead to a revolution. That's right. Even Tupac went through struggles, Baba Chuckway. And Buju is no different. Buju said, I want to rule my destiny. That's right. What did he say? I want to rule my destiny. Let me hear y'all say that. Rule my destiny. Rule my destiny.
Rule my destiny.
Self-determination.
Self-determination.
Buju was talking about self-determination. And we know that many of the rosters are in the streets with the people, right out here. They're in the streets. Buju was in the streets. And who leads the revolution? It's the people in the streets. That's right. We know that culture is one of the key elements to a revolution. Buju is a revolutionary reggae artist. They want those voices silenced. The powers that be want those voices silenced. And we know that we can't remain silent from Buju. We want to rule our destiny. That's the soundtrack to the revolution. When we watch those documentaries, was it Life and Debt? Buju started it off. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I leave that documentary on. I fell asleep on it. I apologize, sister. But the music was still so good. I want to rule my destiny. Right. I got up that morning and got dressed to go to work listening to that song. We got to continue on, Baba Senghor. We're going to have to take it out to the streets. I don't know much about all this courtroom legal jargon. I'm not really too good on Latin. But I do know that as you work in the courtroom, as you go to work in the boardroom and up in the suites, me and Baba Senghor and my brother over there, Najee Mujahid from the Black August Plan Organization, we're going to take it to the streets. Y'all can do the work in the suites. We're going to do the work in the streets. Mm-hmm. We're going to get the petitions. We can go door to door. We can do all those things. We got to have dual responsibilities. All of us could do something. All of us could play a part. One of those other things I'd encourage everybody to do is to think about the spiritual and mental health of Buju behind the wall. All of us could write a letter. It's just as revolutionary to put a stamp on a letter as it is to do some other activities. And I'm not telling you not to do those activities, but just think that it's just as equally as revolutionary. We need to be concerned about his mental and spiritual health as well. Let him know that he's not alone. Because we don't know who's going to come to him in jail. They could come to him on an airplane. Somebody may come to him in jail to try to get him to what they call a confession. So the fight against Buju can still be going on behind those walls right now. We got to write these letters to the parole boards, write them to the Supreme Court. If you're on Twitter and Facebook, you should be tweeting, Facebooking about this right now. Baba Chuckway said the Supreme Court will only hear cases that they think the people want information on or that they think is relevant. We have to make it relevant. Nobody else will make it relevant. We have to rule our destiny. Buju's freedom is going to be contingent upon how much work we put out in the streets. The support committee is going to need help raising funds. Y'all got kind of quiet. The support committee, I know, will need help raising funds with this PR campaign. Make sure that you stay in touch with the support committee to figure out what we can do. Because it's not going to be something that we could just come out to a press conference, feel good about, and then go home and say, yeah, we did something. This was just the beginning. These are just the seeds that are being planted to make this a campaign. Another thing is, and last, this is going to be a protracted struggle. The Supreme Court is not going to hear this next week. Mm-hmm. This may be, unfortunately, a 6 to 7 month, maybe a year-long process. You got to be committed to see this thing through to the end. You got to be committed to see this thing through until the end. If you go halfway and go back home, you might as well have just gone the whole distance because you went the same amount of space. That's right. You done traveled the same distance. Going halfway, ain't no half-stepping. We got to see this thing through to the end. I'm Brother Salim. I represent the National Black United Front. I'm thankful for the opportunity to come here on behalf of the Black Panthers Organization and the UNIA and all the other organizations in D.C. We want to stand in solidarity with the Defense Committee for Buju Banton, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Anything
It's anything in this time. Anything. I refuse to suffer. Learn that. I'm beg bread and butter. None at all. I know where I come from, the depths of the gutter. Nah, go back. No. Learn that. Could I tight like Homeland Security? The end of fighting is a matter of all the team. When I'm gonna run through them barrier, I make crazy cream. And I don't have any doubt, I know just what this is about. I put my trust in the line and keep a in my house. The end of fighting is a matter of all the team. When I'm gonna run through them barrier, make crazy cream. And I don't have any doubt, I know just what this is about. I put my trust in the line, but get me in me. Dealing with haters and traitors who know each sell man out. Them on a brave heart, them too soft to stop him on the mouth. Don't do now, go come in with this. Try the choke, y'all lock up in a house. And time we push out, more money in a pocket, so much sweat can't out. The last check we run 1 year, yeah, it boats. The hygiene a hustle and them can't sell a house. No man could no face it and ain't no pronounce. So the end define me no matter how hard it seems. Man have to run show them bad, make crazy cream. And I don't have any doubt, I know just what this is about. I keep my trust in the lab, but yet make it in my house. The end define me no matter how hard it seems. Man have to run show them bad, make crazy cream. And I don't have any doubt, I know just what this is about. I put my trust in the land, make it in my house. One eye out for the cops and one out for me friends. Don't come push me over, fi control me heads. Fend for myself, we no bend government. Help them all get a new independent. We have house and Russell Ice and an apartment. Can afford to eat good food and dress decent. Help them all they get a youth, them a make sense. Part up with the laws, but that don't make sense. The end defining me so matter how hard it is. Man have to run, show them bad, make crazy cream. And I don't have any doubt, I know just what this is about. I put my trust in the lab, but keep a in my house. The end defining me no matter how hard it is. Man have to run through them bad, make crazy cream. And I don't have any doubt, I know just what this is about. I put my trust in the lad, make it in my house. Show it all, see it all. And no faster them don't tough at all. And no for them end up down a walk out a ball. You listen Buju Banton him a ram dance all. I feel make me food, I feel get mad, no make me get road. And no make me get in a violent mood. I want do some pump, I want do some stores. Move ya, yo. He ain't defining me so matter how hard it is. Man have to run through them bad, make crazy cream. And I don't have any doubt, I know just what this is about. I put my trust in the line, but keep back in my house. He ain't defining me so matter how hard it seems. Don't keep your head low, keep your head up high, don't wanna bury your dreams. You hear me? Shout and screams, man.
Me vex how them like a Buju Banton the artist. If you put them parasites that go on like them the smartest. What the informer them a walk them profits. Judgment again, alright, them better take him out. Before the rasta men make lightning go get him out. Me see the informer come and try and make him out. You don't know one thing, Babylon, just shut up your mouth. Fire!